All right, let's take a look at how to use ACR within Photoshop. And the way to activate ACR is simply to navigate within Bridge to a raw file, as I said in the previous lesson, and you just choose it, which I have right here, double click on it, and it will automatically open Adobe Camera Raw. And you can see the workspace right here. Now, let's go back. You can do the same thing with multiple images. Okay, if we go to Bridge, and let's say we want to work on these three, left click, open with Camera Raw. So you don't double click on three images, you right click, and then as the drop down list appears, you choose Open in Camera Raw, in which case then all three images will load. That's the only way to do multiple images within Camera Raw. Again, manual. So we have these images, and we come over to the right, and the basic panel is where I spend most of my time. Now, the things that you can do here that I really don't do, but that they're very convenient once you have your image in, is to make adjustments to the shadows if you want to. Wish this image was slightly overexposed. And then we'll bring down the highlights just a little bit. You can also bring down the overall exposure. So any of these adjustments, very, very easy, very intuitive. Now the clarity slider is where I spend most of my time using ACR as a filter. So if you go to the right, you can see how it affects the appearance of the clouds. It gives a little more definition. You go all the way to the right and it begins to look a little artificial, but you can bring out some of the detail in clouds by simply using the clarity slider. The other good thing is the dehaze slider, and you give that a nudge to the right, and you can see the effect there. And usually you're doing a dance between the clarity and the dehaze slider to get the effect that you're looking for. But I think it's fairly obvious as to what you can do here. Now the texture slider is something I rarely use, in fact never actually. Go to the right and you can see that the detail is coming out in the cloud pattern, but it looks very, very artificial, and I don't think it does anything to enhance the image at all. And then you double click to simply return the slider to 0. Down here, double click to 0, and everything is back to its normal state. You can adjust the vibrance and the saturation, and then if you want to get real precise with things, you can use the curve dialog box, but keep in mind it's not the same curves dialog box you're used to in Photoshop. In other words, when you move the highlights, it's already predetermined as to what part of that line is going to be used. And then, of course, here. And so I don't like the curves dialog box in ACR. It's just a little bit too elementary, really, to be of any use. And whatever you do, do not use the noise removal in Adobe Camera Raw. It is nowhere near as good as it is in DxO Photo Lab. So just be sure and steer clear of that. Here are the effects as we saw in the previous lesson. Now, you'll see the clarity slider in a lot of different programs. And I'm here to tell you it is best in Adobe Camera Raw. So if you have any idea about bringing out detail or drama in clouds, use the clarity slider within Camera Raw as a filter within Photoshop. I think you'll get some really great results. And then if you make your adjustments between the dehaze filter, the clarity slider, and then to a much lesser degree, these highlight and shadow adjustments, you can also adjust. So this is how I use Adobe Camera Raw in Photoshop.